This secondary is pushing forward with young guys starting to take the lead. No one more so than Christian Roland Wallace today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us today on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day for every team everywhere. So Locked On Chiefs is first on your list, and we very much appreciate you every dayers just like that. You're always here. But make another Locked On show your next listen so you can get some information about enemies, flyers, your favorite fantasy quarterback, whatever you're looking for. We got it here on the network, so check that out. We're free and available everywhere, every day, all the time, starting on YouTube like we are right now, or you can like and sub and getting over to the audio platforms and everywhere else. You can even get us on our own outlets as well, where Chris is over at KC Chiefs Corner, and I'm at NFL33.com and RGRfootball.com. So check those out if you would. Get a little bit more info. We have a fun show for you today. Chris and I have been doing this going into our 9th season. So we try to cover all the aspects of not just camp, but practice, but this team all the way around. So we're going to give it to you today. Right now, Vibe Camp is my new term for what's going on right now, because Andy seems pretty comfortable with it. A lot of talk out there today, as they're only a couple of practices away now from leaving St. Joe for the year, about what it feels like. That's coming up later in the show. There's definitely a few surprises that came up in preseason game number 1. They need to double down on to make the most of not just that game and their evaluation time, but this season for the Chiefs. But we start with a secondary that I think is still evolving, is not fully formed, but if you were going to tell me, Chris, that there's going to be 2 players in the secondary that make big plays in preseason game number 1 against a 7-year veteran quarterback and a guy that a lot of people feel has a lot of upside as a backup quarterback, I would not have guessed that it was one Jaden Hicks and Chris Roland Wallace. And yes, his name is Christian. I forgot to say that a lot, folks. So CRW equals Chris equals Christian. That's the way that goes. I think we have expectations for Jaden Hicks, right? So that wasn't really a surprise. But I think me and a small handful of people actually expect Chris Wallace to be able to put some of these things out. Did it surprise you? And do you feel that he's pushing from the back towards making this whole unit better?
I do think that it's a little surprising, but it's more surprising to me because of the way he got it and where he was on the field when he got it. He's playing more of a safety role, something that we didn't expect going into the season, and that seems like the position he's going to end up being after playing a lot of corner last year. And, you know, we've talked about it with Matt. We've talked about it a little bit between you and I about how he's basically a Chamari Connor. I hate saying it this way, but it's kind of Chamari Connor light to an extent, with the way that they're using him on the field and what they think that he can do. So I do think that it's a little surprising that he's playing that safety role, especially, and goes back to Chamari Connor too, because I'm surprised he's playing that safety role considering what they've been having him do with the nickel. And Chamari Connor's a starter at the safety position. That's surprising over Jaden Hicks. So, I mean, there's lots of different things that seem to kind of be shaking out, but the reality is that this Chiefs unit is starting to move forward. And we haven't even talked about a guy who took his first snaps on Monday with the scout team in Christian Fulton.
Yeah, big plus to get him back out there. And folks, we are live. Thanks for joining us. If you have a question, you can throw them in there. And if we have time at the end of the show, we'll try to answer one or a couple of them. Christian Fulton getting out there, the other Christian, I'm going to call to him in this segment, really changes the dynamic at corner. And I like that. But you mentioned something else that triggered me a little bit, and I'm going to do a breakdown on this on RGR. So if you want to see the film of it, go do that. The really interesting thing to me, and it is, let's be honest, a 7-year quarterback in Kyler Murray, who has been known to make some silly
mistakes.
Okay, I wasn't going to go to the yes. Like he is the Bailey Zappi of the Arizona Cardinals. I love you, Bailey, but get it together. Let's go. Other than that, Clayton Tune, I think, has potential. But both these interceptions were thrown to guys that clearly were in position and coverage that maybe shouldn't have been thrown. The interesting thing for me is CRW was playing a rare look for him in particular, but in general, the last couple of years, single high. He was the only safety deep in that particular play. And I think that's a nice departure too. I don't consider him a center fielder. I don't think he has the wheels to get sideline to sideline. But if you're going to play especially 3 deep zones instead of 4 deep zones, I think he could be a guy that could be back there and could play in that free between the hash middle section.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they played him a lot at corner last year. It looks like they're moving him to safety, and you look at that movement. That's generally speaking something that you do later in your career when you don't have the wheels anymore as a corner. But this seems to be something that they're doing now, and you have to wonder, especially with when you look at Shamari Connor being the starter and you look at Jaden Hicks being a backup and Cook is the other starter. Now you're looking at a situation where maybe CRW is your fourth safety on this team, and losing Dion Bush for the season, who likely wasn't going to play much of a role at safety anyway, kind of makes you wonder, are they going to just keep four and Mike Edwards is going to be on the outside looking in, because they have so many different corners that you have to wonder how that's going to play into everything.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, because Dion Bush, I think, was destined for his previous role, which is to be the emergency safety on the practice squad, earning a living. It's not high dollar stuff, but you're part of this team. And I think this is a way that the coaching staff in particular, but Brett Veach as well, builds this roster to be deeper than normally most teams would call it. Because I think they're more selective about who they put on that practice squad, knowing that there's an elevation that they can use if they need to, that there really is a guy that can come in and play. Maybe Mike Edwards ends up in that spot.
And I would also say that Kansas City seems to be one of the teams that has continually gone with more veteran players on their practice squad versus what it originally was supposed to be, which was a developmental, not a league necessarily, but a developmental path to make the roster in the future years. But Kansas City's using it and saying, okay, we don't have enough at this position. Safety is a great example of Dion Bush coming back from or going to the practice squad, coming up, playing a couple of games for the Chiefs at different times, and being a guy that can step in and play that role versus a young safety who is just, in case of emergency, break glass, that type of thing. So the Chiefs have done that a lot more. They've gone more veteran at different positions. Safety is one of them. You have to wonder if that's another way that they're going to be looking at maybe another defensive position when you start talking maybe the linebacker roles. Not necessarily young with, or not necessarily veterans that have 6, 7, 8 years, but guys that have been in the NFL for 2 or 3 seasons or maybe more, that are core special teamers for you, or can be core special teamers for you at that position.
Yeah, it makes that value that much more accessible when you use it in that way. And I like the way that the Chiefs have handled it. They get the most out of the back end of those slots rather than the front end developmental side. I like that a lot. It brings up some surprises from time to time, and that's okay. Dion Bush was able to perform in a critical situation because he had the experience coming off of that practice squad. So let's hope that they find more of those. They are out there. One guy in particular on the offensive side of the ball just scored, and I don't know that you saw it coming. What are the surprises they need more of next? This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy, and it's the best time of the year because the NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. This year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and Locked On Chiefs are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, so you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league, you can get into it. My main league is over 20 years old, and it's been on Yahoo forever. Make sure you check this out, because to celebrate their 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over the 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped the Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated from the league each week until there's only one left standing. And this season, it's just around the corner. Now's the time to get your league together and give it a try in a new mode, whether it's one of the classics, this guillotine, or head-to-head, or you can just join a normal public league like you have in the past. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Jason Brownley is the player that I was talking about before the break. Didn't expect it, but this has now been a pretty hectic 7 days for him where he really started to come on. And the fact that they were throwing slants down in the red zone, they were throwing outside shoulder throws in the red zone, really, again, goes back to what I said post game, the aggression that shows from Patrick Mahomes and trusting these younger guys to do that. I think that is a big step forward. And I think that shows a trust that maybe he didn't even develop with Hopkins last year, because you didn't see it. And that's the big question, is where Brownley goes from here. I think they need to feed him more.
Yeah, it's going to be curious, because when you specifically talk about that specific position, we already thought they had 6, 7 even, because you're figuring the Rashee Rice is going to get suspended. And there was news on that out today. Mike Florio says that he thinks it's going to be between 6 and 10 games. Yeah, I know. I rolled my eyes to see what I saw, who said it. But I do think he's probably right. I do think it's going to be at least 6 games, whether or not it's something that is, that they appeal and they get lower. We'll see. But I do expect it's going to be 6 games. But you look at that position, and if Remigio makes this roster, how does Brownley make this roster?
He doesn't.
Tyquan Thornton has looked fantastic in camp and looked at least good enough from what we saw in the preseason game. And I'm guaranteeing we'll see more preseason game number 2. And I would imagine we'll probably see a shot to Tyquan Thornton from somebody, if it's Minshew or Patrick Mahomes, who knows. But right now, I think Brownley's the 8th wide receiver, and there's no way you're keeping 7 on the active roster. And it's gonna be tough. What happens if Rice isn't suspended for week 1? Then what are you gonna do?
You're gonna cross your fingers, because that's all you can do at that point. I wonder, given this, if it comes down to it, and Nico Romeo continues to return, kicks well, have a grab here and there to be able to produce a little bit on offense as well, something that makes it so that he needs to be on the roster, not Brashard Smith. That's the scenario we want to talk about right here. Given the value and the way that they play, I don't think it's particularly close between Brownley and Tyquan Thornton, but do you see it a different way?
No, I don't think it's really close right now. I think Brownley is taking advantage of the snaps and the chances he's getting. But Thornton gives them something that they, I won't say they lack, because they have speed, but the more speed you have, the more guys that you have that can do fly routes and absolutely terrify defenses, the better off you're going to be. And you have 3 of those guys right now that you could have all on the field at once. And defenses are not going to like that, because you have the ability to go 3 wide with those 3 and really stress defenses out.
Yeah, and that is the goal. Surprise number 2 for me is a guy that I think is still not going to be able to make the roster, just given the math that we're going to have to employ here. And we will have our projection here coming up later in a couple of weeks, folks. After we see the preseason games, we'll give you our final 53 projection just before the Chiefs do it. I want to see more Isapola, and I want to see him protecting Minshew with the rest of the 2s. I want to see him. I thought Hansen was a little bit up and down at guard on rewatch, but I want to see he get a chance to play a lot of where Jalen Moore played the other night with a higher group, and see what comes of that. That's the surprise that intrigued me.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if Pole is able to do that, and if they put him in that position to do that. Well, one thing we did find out, we already mentioned Dion Bush, going to IR. He's out for the season. Janoris Robinson is out for the season at this point. He's on IR, broken foot. So that happened. But also the other news that we got was Ethan Driscoll had an appendectomy right before the game. And obviously that's a scary situation. But the other part of that is we start talking about the roster math. Offensive tackle is really tough. And now you're wondering, when is Driscoll going to be available? And at this point, I'm wondering, is he a guy that ends up on IR as of the last day of cutdowns so they can bring him back later in the season? Because an appendectomy, you're going to have a couple of weeks before you're going to be able to really get out there and play, I would think. So IR is a real issue, but if they put him on IR right now, the season's over. So it could be a couple of weeks. Pole, long story short, I agree with you. Pole needs to have more of a chance to play, but Driscoll's and the math make it a situation where maybe Pole is their 5th offensive tackle. I doubt it, but who knows?
I kind of feel like it's slanted that way already, but camp is over for Ethan Driscoll. He will not get onto the field before cutdowns.
Preseason's over for him.
Yeah, he's done the work that he's going to be able to do. I personally feel that it's most likely that he gets cut in order to avoid some of the roster gymnastics that you have to do. You cut him. I don't think anybody claims him, and you bring him back to the practice squad right where he was last year. He gets to recover. He gets to get back into shape, and then he can continue his development, because I think right now it was close enough. I think Pole will pass him.
He wasn't on the practice squad last year. He was on the active roster the entire season.
Oh, that's a great point. Practice player is what I meant. Yes. But I don't think because
the problem is,
I don't think he gets picked up.
And maybe you're right, but my point is that you don't have to do roster issues right now. You can hold him on the roster until final cutdowns, and then put him on IR, and he's still eligible to come back that year. So I think that's the move that they're going to do with him. They don't have to keep him on the active roster for one day. That got taken away a couple of years ago.
But you only have so many players that you can designate to return, correct?
Yes.
That's my concern.
Well,
and that's why, if you're not worried, if you think that someone's going to pick him up from his preseason film last year, then fine. Maybe that's a risk you don't want to take. I don't feel like that. And given that he hasn't put anything else on film, I'm not too concerned about it. But that would be one way to avoid that, so you don't take a slot that maybe you might need later.
Well, but you don't have to do anything. If you put him on IR that day, that doesn't take up any extra slots. It's just you're not able to bring him back unless you're going to have to wait to bring him back. To me, I guess I see what you're saying. I look at it differently, because to me, that's not a designated, you have to be designated to return. He's on IR. You can eventually choose to bring him back if you want to. And if they have an injury, maybe they do, or maybe he becomes the mystery IR candidate, I suppose. You could look at it that way.
I just want to.
Who knows?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they think, because I think their evaluation will become pretty clear on cutdown day, because he's not going to be able to make any more progress before then. And quite frankly, Pole might play his way ahead of him anyway. So
possible.
We're just going to have to see what the feeling is around camp. And feeling is really important, because this is a vibe camp. Andy Reid is happy, and he's happy for his guys to be happy.
I have one more really quick. The one that I don't need to see more from, Tanyan can be shut down. I'm not saying he doesn't play at all, but I don't need to see any more. He's tied in 3, and I don't think it's even close. And he doesn't need a ton of snaps in the next game.
Yeah, you've got what you need from him.
Yep.
He's got a pretty good vibe going too. What is vibe camp for the Chiefs, and how does it affect them? I think it lifts the entire motivation for the whole team. So does Andy Reid coming up next. There's a lot. It's August 26th is the official day. The FanDuel Futures, that's where they launch. The brand new holiday for football fans to want to get bold predictions, preseason hunches, get them all out there for just 24 hours. FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, the season-long predictions. So whether you're calling for an MVP like Pat Mahomes, or you're eyeing a long shot division winner, which is not the Broncos, I'm ready, and you might be ready to crown your Super Bowl champion right now in week 1, even before it kicks off. This is your moment. I would take a flyer on Pat becoming the MVP yet again. I would take a flyer on the Bills not making the championship game. Just saying. There's plenty of parlays and other things that you can go for. You can go do it right now. Visit FanDuel app right now today, and you're planning your future's best bets right now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only at FanDuel. Play your game. Vibes. Kay Adams was out of practice today. Had a couple conversations that caught my eye. Maybe the most telling for me was Andy. We usually get these kind of grandfatherly answers from Andy about, I want the guys to show their personality and be comfortable. But he got to the point where he's like, yeah, like we need to be together and we need to have some fun. And like, I've never heard Andy Reid talk about fun before in a way that was like actually productive. And I think that is a change in the whole feel for what this camp is. They've been pushing the ball deep. They've been, playing their normal quarterback games after practice and that kind of stuff. But everything that has been serious, whether positive or negative, feels like it's taken some of the stress off by either having a lighter overall mentality and certainly having a little bit more fun out there. I think it's a positive thing for this team and this team's outlooks.
I'm really curious. We're recording this on Monday night. I think Thursday, The Kingdom is being released by ESPN on ESPN Plus. I have to wonder if having that whole series and having it there last year kind of changed the way Andy Reid looks at everything just a little bit, because he gave more access, and it was talked about on the Chiefs pregame. He gave more access than they thought that they were going to get from him because Clark Hunt asked him to. And the question becomes, does Andy Reid look at what happened last year and look at how that went last year and the reception that he's gotten from people that are surrounding him that have seen it already, thinking this is what the league wants? Okay, this is the direction we're going to go. And maybe they're looking at it. Maybe he's looking at it a little bit differently, and the stress is gone because he's seeing that this can be more fun. He can enjoy this a little bit more. He can let go a little bit more and kind of give more of himself, because I think you're going to see a lot more of him. And Patrick Mahomes talked about it, talking to Kay Adams too. I saw a clip of him saying, I'm really excited for you to see Chris Jones and Andy Reid, because you're going to see things you have never seen before. And I wonder if that plays into what this is going to be and how this season is going to go.
Yeah, and I think I think it's another season that the pressure's off. They still ought to be a front runner for the Super Bowl, so that's a bit of pressure, but it's not like the back-to-back thing again, right? And to be able to have that kind of insider look at the team come out and be more relaxed about it, I think that puts not just the veterans that are back, but all the rookies as well and the free agents that are like, okay, so this is what they did. There will be guys on this team that watch that show every week because they weren't here last year.
Yep. Well, and you're going to also have guys that have been here. I mean, it's still crazy to me. Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, and that whole crew have known nothing but going to the Super Bowl every single year they've been pros. They're in year 4, and they have not known anything but going by to a Super Bowl. And the other thing you said, and this goes back several years, obviously, but you have to think that pressure's off for multiple things. Now it's a matter of, and you have to also wonder, is Reid starting to look at his dynasty or look at his presence in the NFL and what it has meant for him being in the NFL? Because now he's got his Super Bowl. He's obviously a first ballot Hall of Fame coach. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
You start looking forward, you start looking at your legacy, what you're leaving, and how you've had an impact on the game. Pressure's off, because you're right. Now it's not a question of can you win 3 in a row. It's can you just get back to Super Bowl? And as a team, you've been there before, you've won it before, and you know that you have the ability to win it again. And you have a QB who is doing everything. He looks better from everything I've seen. He looks better than he did last year. And some of the weapons that he'll have, and talking about Brownley earlier and Tyquan Thornton, those are guys that they wish they could have had last year.
Yeah.
Wished.
I'm pretty convinced. And there's a couple other aspects. We'll go kind of like a speed round here just because there's a couple. Want to say hi to Brenda and Kay. Nice to see you guys. Kay had a good point. Lucas Niang tore the ACL.
Yeah, I saw that earlier.
They could be looking for somebody else out of that system. So thanks for bringing that up, Kay. Appreciate you. Daniel, I want your opinion. He's high on Noah Williams after watching him play, and I think I'm a little bit higher than I even was before. I liked him from the beginning. Where are you at?
I want to see more. I'll be honest, I don't know how much I want to see of Noah Williams, mainly not because I think he's not going to be ready to play, mainly because I think Christian Fulton needs to get in there and take a ton of snaps. And that's unfortunately probably going to take away from Noah Williams to an extent, but I think it needs to happen regardless. And the whole Jalen Watson injury is going to open up a door for somebody at corner to do something. I don't know if it's going to be Noah Williams, but Christian Fulton's going to be stepping into a role where I think he becomes the obvious CB2, and he needs to get a ton of snaps in preseason game number 2, because I can't imagine they want him playing preseason game number 3.
Yeah, you got to get him warmed up. And we don't know what's going to happen with Jalen Watson, because the concussion protocol is a mysterious thing. But one thing he's probably not going to do is line up at nickel. And my guy Callie wants to know why this is happening. You're going to have to tell him, because I can't say it in a nice way. So here's the question from Callie. I can't understand why Jalen Watson is listed as the nickel on the depth chart.
I don't have a great answer for that, other than they're just trying to put him in a starter role. And this is also done something by PR, not really by the coaching staff. So let's just put it that way. I think that Jalen Watson is probably the front runner for the third CB. But the problem is I don't know that he's really going to play that role, because the reality is when you go to a nickel package, he's not going to be coming on the field if he's not out there as one of your outside corners.
Yeah.
They're not going to put him at the nickel position. I mean, I guess you could if you move if you move McDuffie inside, he could be coming on the field as an outside corner. So he could technically be your third corner in that role.
True.
But that's only if you have McDuffie sliding inside, which I don't think they want to do. And it's tough. I don't know what they're going to do. The concussion thing's really interesting, though, because if you watch the game, he didn't even seem like he had an issue.
Agreed. The ref stopped it, right? Like it was something
Right.
they observed on the field.
Well, I think it was somebody up top that saw something. Yeah, that's at least what the broadcast was saying, is they think it was somebody up top that saw it, because the ref stopped everything and it seemed like was listening to his headset. So I think that somebody saw something up top, but Jalen Watson seemed fine. He didn't seem like he was woozy. Didn't seem like he was having any issues. And all of a sudden it's, oh, well, he's got a concussion. I figured he'd be going in the blue tent and be right back out a couple snaps later. But, we'll see. But his problem is he has had nagging injuries his entire career in Kansas City. And that's the reason why his time in Kansas City is probably coming to a close this season, unless he's injured the entire time and is able to come back at a very cheap rate. I cannot see him back in Kansas City in 2026 because of his injury history and because he plays corner, which generally gets overpaid in the NFL.
Oh, I think he'll be back, because I don't think anybody's going to give him a long-term contract. But we'll talk about that come the off season. There's a lot that goes into it, and we'll have to see if he's back. I'm hoping, and because of those lack of circumstances that you just mentioned, I don't think he's going to be out very long.
Could be. Here you go. Here's one for you. I've been seeing this talked about all over the place, and I get it to an extent. I get the thought process, but I can't imagine Simmons is going to want to play for cheap. So I don't see any chance. But the other thing that you run into if you bring Justin Simmons is you're looking at a guy that's going to be a starter. So you're basically going to kick Hicks to your fourth safety, and Shamari Conner is going to be your third. I don't see that happening personally.
Yeah, I don't either, for both of those reasons. Plus, I just don't think he wants to be here. I don't know why.
Yeah,
but I don't really care. So good luck to you, Justin. You do you, and we'll see you down the road. But we would like to see you guys down the road too. Leave us your comments. Let me know if you're as flabbergasted as Callie is down in the comments. We would appreciate that. Make sure you check out Chris over at KC Chiefs Corner. Get with me on RGR Football. We do the normal thing. We are preseason, yes. We're getting right back into our regular season rotation. So make sure you like and sub and do all those things. Find us on the text line at 816-357-8781 if you want all that information that comes out right away. That's the place to be with the everydayers. Thanks for spending your day with us. We'll be back tomorrow with Matt Derrick and getting ready for preseason game number 2. We'll have our preview later in the week. Don't miss it. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you tomorrow.